Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. It's been over 30 days since violence erupted in the northeastern state of Manipur. Over 70 people have lost their lives amidst the violent clashes between the Kukis and the Metis. Indian Army and paramilitary forces have been deployed on ground to control the situation. Army Chief General Manoj Pandey is also in Manipur and has already taken stock of the situation. Meanwhile, Manipur government has launched a special operation against Kuki terrorists. Manipur CM Biren Singh claimed that Kuki terrorists are using sophisticated weapons like M16, AK-47 and snipers to target civilians. He has assured the Manipuris that these terrorists won't be spared, and in an operation, 40 such terrorists have already been killed in a joint operation by security forces. The situation became tense in the state after Manipur High Court directed the state government to consider inclusion of the Meitei community in scheduled tribes list. Amidst all of this, Home Minister Amit Shah is on a 3-day visit to the violence-hit state and will assess the situation. He's expected to land in Manipur tonight. The big question is, what really is the way forward? How can this decades-long battle between the Kukis and the Metis communities be sorted? And how long will it take to restore normalcy in the state? We'll take those questions to our guests in just a bit. First, let's take a look at Union Home Minister Amit Shah's plan as he starts on a 3-day visit to violence-hit Manipur. As I mentioned, he'll land in Imphal later tonight. According to MHA sources, Home Minister Amit Shah is likely to stay in Manipur till the 31st of this month. He's scheduled to visit violence-affected areas and also meet with some victims. Home Minister shall also meet security forces in the state and assess the security situation. He may meet Kuki and Meitei community organizations as well during his visit. But why are the two communities fighting? By now, you may have heard about this, but just to refresh your memory, about 59% of known tribal population, the Metis, occupy just 10% of the land in Manipur. The remaining 41% tribal population enjoys the state's 90% territory. Non-tribal communities there are also not allowed to be landowners in that 90% area. So non-tribals are facing a land and space crunch due to an increase in the population, but no access to more land or to expand. Because of the same reason, Meitei community's demand of recognition as the ST was accepted, which later led to the flaring up of this conflict all over again. Let's also take a deep dive into what both parties are saying, what both sides are saying as far as this divide is concerned. So the Metis, of course, say that they were recognized as a tribe before 1949, so they've been fighting for that right again. The Kukis say that the Metis are an advanced community in the state, so they should not have that tribal tag like them. Metis claim they need to preserve their community as well and save their ancestral land. The Kukis say that the inclusion of the Metis under ST will lead to loss of jobs for them, that is the tribals. The Metis say they are being victimized without any constitutional safeguard. The Kukis say the Metis can be recognized as SCs or OBCs, but should not be put under the ST category. CM Biren Singh has blamed Kuki insurgents for the violence. Let me give you a little bit of an insight on what these Kuki terrorists are and what their background is. So currently they are active in northeast India and also northwest Myanmar. Their aim is to create a separate state specifically for the Kuki community. The demand for Kuki land began in late 1980s, which gave birth to the Kuki National Organization. The insurgents want to restore the ancestral Kuki territory according to them, and Kuki land also includes regions that are actually not part of India. So the big first debate coming in, even as Home Minister Amit Shah is embarking on this all-important visit to Manipur, what really can be the way ahead?
Situation remains tense in Manipur. Right now we are standing in the heart of Imphal, but the entire Imphal is deserted. None of the shops are open. You can see behind me the roads. Very few emergency vehicles are flying in.
Mass combing operations along with the helicopter surveillance has started, and we're trying to find out if the culprits, those militants who are attacking the civilians.
Amit Shah will be coming to Manipur in Imphal, and he will hold rounds of meeting with the Chief Minister, with the forces. That's what we are getting it from the sources.
मंगलवार के दिन प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया से टाइम पूछे हैं, हम जाकर डेलीगेशन में जाकर उनसे मिलेंगे और मिलकर उनसे ये सारी चीजें बताएंगे।
Let's go across to our guest joining us. Rajat Sethi is a former advisor to the Manipur CM. Nishikant Sapam, independent MLA from the Meitei community, is joining us. Meeta Chakrabarti is the Congress spokesperson. Also, Rami Niranjan Desai is an author who's worked extensively on the northeast region. Let me begin with a couple of our experts before I bring in a political guest. Rami, why don't I begin with you? It's been a month. Many people would say the situation should have been controlled by now. So where are we going wrong as far as controlling the situation is concerned, and what needs to be done?
Good evening, Shivani. I'm really glad that news channels like yours are following this up on a day-to-day basis. Having said that, as you mentioned, I have been traveling the Northeast for the last 15 years. I've seen Northeast in in a state of flux, in relative conflict, and I've seen Northeast in the last 5 years in relative peace. And, this is absolutely unfortunate, but the fact of the matter is that the genesis of this sort of conflict is not new. It has its roots in history. And this is not just a Kuki or a Meitei conflict. There is a Meitei, there's a Kuki and a sub-clan Kuki conflict as well. If we look at 1997, there was a huge conflict huge clashes between the Kukis and the Meiteis, So this has been going on for a while. And of course, things are always sensitive. I have found, and I have focused on insurgency and conflict in this region, and I found that Manipur to be one of the most complex states, if we were to look at it from the spectrum of security. There are no easy answers here. Apart from the inter-ethnic tribes, under the umbrella of one tribe also you have ethnic conflict, plus you have the Myanmar border, which directly impacts us, and one cannot deny the influx of migration. 30,000 refugees from the same Kukichin clan have been registered in Mizoram. Unfortunately, there hasn't been that kind of registration in Manipur. But, there's no way to deny that there hasn't been a demographic change. So there are lots of, multi-levels of insecurities on both ends. There are multi-levels, layers of problems on both ends. And I'm sure we'll come to those questions later. But having said that, there are no easy answers. And I think the fact of the matter is that, our Home Minister is going there to review the situation.
Yeah.
And at this point, the security spectrum is the only spectrum that we can view this situation with and keep it calm, because any sentence, any statement, any move is going to flare the situation up.
Okay.
Having said that, I noticed some protests. Last point, Shivani, I noticed some protests a couple of days ago where they demanded a solution before peace. I can say that there might be multiple ways to get to a solution which will take time. That is not one of it. You cannot have a solution before peace.
Right. We were also running some fresh visuals we've received of certain members of the communities welcoming Amit Shah, and obviously there will be a lot of anticipation in the communities who have been ravaged by violence. A lot of their homes have been lit up and, set to arson, so that there is some peace and calm that comes back. Rajat, I want to come to you. The Chief Minister says that actually this is not a conflict between the two communities. It is basically Kuki terrorists who are terrorizing members of the communities. But would that be a one-sided way to look at this?
It is certainly a very major part of the problem. If you have terrorists wielding weapon and moving around freely and causing an atmosphere of fear among the communities, no peace process can start. And I think at this stage, Amit Shah ji going there will be the neutral arbiter who can sit with these communities and at least ensure first the militant elements are removed, their weapons are seized before any process can start. I agree with the Honorable Chief Minister here that with Kuki militants, which are being currently seen to be spread across low-lying hills surrounding the Imphal Valley, if they continue with their violent streak, if they continue wielding AK-56 and semi-automatic machine guns and pointedly targeting at the Meitei community, no talks can begin because then the Meitei community will retaliate.
Yeah.
And, violence cannot be an answer at this stage, and you require serious deliberations between the heads of both the communities to sit across the table and at least find a common ground. And before that, the militants have to be handled, because these militants are destroying any kind of initiative that the political establishment would be interested in. Therefore, I think a ruthless approach of taming these militant and the terrorist groups that are out there is of paramount importance.
I agree with you there. Obviously, without that, nothing else can work. But what is the long-term solution? The Meiteis want the tribal tag. The Kukis are not willing to let them have it. I've just briefly explained some of the conflicts that are, emerging because of the land ownership issues. What is the larger solution? And one question I want to understand from all of our guests, is it fair to deny somebody else a tag that they have gone to court and won, or the government maybe look at it favorably? Can we give communities a right that by violence they can deny someone else the right to agitate for what they are wanting? Because that seems to be essentially what's playing out here. Rajat first, then I'll go to Mr. Nishikant.
Well, your point is correct, and I believe Nishikant ji will also agree with this. Any negotiations without fear or favor, that should be the way forward. Fear because of any militant groups trying to push an agenda on communal lines should not be acceptable. And I think this is where the state administration, the central administration, everybody is geared towards, is to identify, eliminate any terror activities happening there, ensure there is the right atmosphere for negotiations to initiate. And once that is there, of course, it's a zero-sum game. And for every such conflicts, there are always ways that you can perhaps create one common ground from where you'd start the deliberations and push the things forward. At this stage, I mean, if the current violence continues the way it is continuing, I really doubt that what's going to happen in the next 3 days that the Honorable Home Minister is there.
Okay.
Therefore, I think what the Chief Minister has been doing is to tame the violence over there unleashed by the militant outfits. That's of paramount importance, and that should be finished off before any talks start. This is my independent opinion.
Right. Nishikant Sapam is from the Meitei community. I want to understand from you, yes, of course, immediate priority is to bring calm and peace to the state. And obviously all agencies will be employed with that primary motive. But just speaking a little bit beyond that, what is it that the Meitei community wants as a solution out of this conflict? You've seen the reaction of the Kuki community or the Kuki militants, terrorists, whichever way you want to look at it. The Meitei community has been asking for the scheduled tribe right because clearly it is essential to their survival in the state, but obviously it is being opposed. What do you hope to achieve in the near future? Nishikanji, can you hear me? If that was for you, if you can go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Nishikanji, I can hear you. If you can hear me, please go ahead. That question was for you.
Okay. Now I'll tell you one thing. You see, first of all, you'll have to go back to what the Meiteis were. When we joined the Union of India, it was the king of Manipur who signed the merger agreement. No other than the king. And when we joined with Cabo Valley, which is in Burma, apparently given away by late Jawaharlal Nehru, the then Prime Minister. And Churachandpur being called Churachandpur, which is where the whole thing started off, is named after Churachand Maharaj. So basically what I want to say is that when we joined at that time, we were all owners of the land, all of us. I'm not saying Meitei alone, all of us. So I just went back to that history. And we were all seen as tribes, all of us. And then in 1951, after the census, I think we were not given the ST tag. Then MLR LR Act 1960 deprived us. It was just applicable in the valley and certain areas, like in some areas in Moreh, some areas in Churachandpur. So we got restricted in that area. The valley area is, I'm told, less than 10%. But then again, if you take away Loktak area, the Kaibulamjau area, we'll be left with probably 6 or 7%. And you have not only the Meiteis, which are the majority of people, you have the Meitei Muslims also staying here. You have everybody, the non-Manipuri Indians staying here. You have all the tribal brothers, most welcome, they're all staying here. So imagine that all of us are staying in this place, which is around 7% of the land. And if I've read somewhere that at the time of independence, India's population was only 34 crore. Today we are 140 crore, crossing China. And in 1951, the population of Manipur was 5.7 lakh. Today, in 2011 was the last census we had. We were like 28 or 29 lakh. So right now we must be almost hitting 40 lakh. So imagine a situation like 30, 40 years down the line, we'll probably be 1.5, 2 crore. Where do we go? I mean, there is going to be a massive bloodbath. I mean, really serious one then. So what I only suggest, like, for example, when you look at Himachal, which is also a part of India, and Himachal, I have a lot of friends in Himachal who are Rajputs, and they have orchards in Jubbal. So, I mean, Rajput is also, it cannot be termed as a scheduled tribe or a tribe. Rajputs are like way up in the Hindu hierarchy. And they're also, Himachal is a part of India. So is Manipur. So my problem is a lot with the land, because I am saying let's all sit across the table and share the resources of the state together.
No, so I understand what you're saying. You're saying that 90% of the territory of the state cannot belong exclusively to one section, denying the other section. But given the kind of violent response that has come in, even when this process could have been initiated, do you believe that there will be political will to execute this for you?
The whole startup was not just because of this issue as such.
Fair enough.
There were a lot of things brewing before that. You know, some people crossed over, and I believe they were staying in these forest land, and that's why the Honorable Chief Minister is trying to move them out, and few things were brewing. And then they had this peaceful march on the 3rd, where something happened, and you saw the Meiteis, we will say that this happened, where we saw people with AK-47s roaming around, you know, lighting up the villages. At the minority village, that is a minority Meitei village. And that video reached Imphal, and then it went berserk. So it went so berserk and so quickly that I think the administration wasn't prepared for that kind of speed and kind of intensity of violence.
But what do you make overall of the opposition to the tribal issue? Do you see this being achieved at all? You may have reasonable reasons. From what you're saying and what everybody knows, that it sounds reasonable that all members of the state should share the entire state resources. But clearly that is being opposed vehemently.
You see, you know what? When I was in college also, I used to think about this. I mean, that's way, way long back, like probably almost 40 years back. But today, even in an election campaign, this was very seriously in my agenda.
Sir, I seem to have lost your audio. I'll try and get that back. Let me also bring in Meeta Chakrabarti in the meantime. Meeta ji, the Home Minister is going to Manipur. He's going to be staying there for 3 days. The Congress has been very critical of the way the Manipur crisis has been handled. You're even asking for some time with the president. How do you look at this situation? What is it that you would hope that the government is able to achieve soon enough?
Well, I'm assuming that query was meant for me because I lost the audio for
Yes, Meeta ji, for you, go ahead.
That's meant for me, right? Yeah, okay. So firstly, Manipur, the jewel of Northeast, has been burning. And 25 days later, I think it started from May 3rd, we still haven't been able to see normalcy in the state of Manipur. So for the principal opposition party, it is extremely painful. We are pained. We are very concerned about the situation in Manipur. More than 73 people have been reported dead. Many properties being burned down. The entire law and order of the state has collapsed. And hence a delegation led by the AICC president, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, is going to meet the honorable president of the nation to discuss the situation. Secondly, I thank the fact that in your channel you are doing a very important show about the state of affairs in Manipur, because I think in a big section of the media it has been completely ignored. I cannot understand a situation like this happening in any other state where more than 70 people have died and it not getting the kind of media attention that it really deserves. Thirdly, yes, we do appeal for peace, and we also appeal to the government of the day that at least there be a genuine political will to bring in some amount of dialogue between the two communities. Because it's really distressful to see that despite Article 355 being imposed, there is no end to this violence. We see that when this disruption first happened, we saw how Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah went on campaigning in the state of Karnataka. Then Prime Minister was busy with his overseas trip. Then Prime Minister yesterday was obviously obsessed with his own self-coronation. So we believe that not enough is being done.
Okay.
Who is going to take responsibility for the lost lives, for the violence in the state of Manipur? Will the BJP state government take the responsibility? Will the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, take responsibility?
Okay,
So we
fair
appeal
enough.
to
Those
the
are all
government
very
of the
legitimate
day
questions.
that
I have
more
limited
be
time.
done to get normalcy in the state of
Fair
Manipur.
enough. And I think that
And
will
that
be
is
the challenge
exactly
for
what
both
we are
the
going
state
to
governments
raise
and the
tomorrow.
central government. Very quickly, I only have about a minute or so left. I want to give Rami and Rajat 30 seconds each. But Mitaji, I want to understand from you, as the principal opposition, are you in agreement that the Meiteis need to be given more access to the land? Because without that fundamental question, I don't think any solution can come.
State resources have to be distributed between different communities living in the state. The problem is a solution. You will not be able to arrive at a solution in a television studio debate. It's a very sensitive issue. And I will be a responsible opposition by saying that there needs to be dialogue and discourse involving and engaging all communities living in the state so that we can arrive at a peaceful solution and move ahead.
But what do you do if one side is vehemently violent? Let me give Rajat and Rami 30 seconds each. Unfortunately, I don't have more time. But Rajat, where did it all go wrong? Historically speaking, I'm not trying to appropriate blame only on the current government because I know this is a historical issue. Where have we as a country gone wrong that this is happening in 2023 in India?
See, please understand that Manipur, unlike other states, is not a homogeneous monolith. Many states, you look at UP, Bihar, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, they have one ethnicity broadly speaking, and they are homogeneous in nature. So you don't see such kind of conflicts. It is only and only in Manipur, not even Nagaland, Mizoram, and Tripura and other states. It's only Manipur where you have three communities entangled in a zero-sum game. Anything that you do for one community is seen at the cost of other two communities. So largely the state has become a tinderbox. It is waiting for any small spark to happen. That spark could be Naga Accord. If you sign the Naga Accord, the state will burn. If you do Kuki Accord, the state will burn. If you give ST status to Manipur, it will burn. These are 70-year-long problems. We have tried very hard in the past 5 years to ensure that the people of Manipur march forward. But till these wounds are not permanently addressed and solved, the situation clearly says that you cannot march forward. You need to address those issues that Nishikantji is raising. That land is an issue, is a very sensitive issue. Let us solve this issue before we march forward on a peace and progress route.
Okay. Rami,
After Rami ji, give me 10 seconds.
Okay, Rami, is that possible? Given the very heightened tensions, is it possible that this land issue can be sorted out?
Right.
Shivani, we have to go down to the crux of it. We have to follow the rule of the land. Just because you have objections and you do not agree with a certain decision, dissent cannot turn into anarchy. The procedure for inclusion into a scheduled tribe list, the state can refer a tribe to be included, and then it goes on to NCST, it goes on to the tribal ministry, so on and so forth. So there's nothing wrong in the state following the procedure and the High Court suggesting it. Now, violence cannot be the reaction to procedures, and that is one thing we have to sort of come on a table and have a consensus that violence cannot be a reaction to something that you object to.
Right.
And once that, is on the table, a dialogue can happen. But this sort of reaction to just a suggestion, and I'll tell you another thing, it started off with this, and the whole debate has gone on to the demand for sixth schedule in the autonomous regions, councils. Your target point cannot change from one thing to another. Now the other debate is, there isn't enough development in the hill regions. Figure out, what are you objecting to? What is this reaction for? Come on the table with some amount of respect for, the rule of law.
All right. I have to give 10 seconds to Nishikant as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Though I am an MLA, I am not supposed to take sides, and I am not taking sides. As a Maitai, I am asking for every son of the soil of the state of Manipur deserves a level playing field, right? So that's what I'm asking for. So in that, the land has to be considered, and you can have whatever scheduled caste quotas, by and large, you can work it out. Here, in a situation, if you look at the future, the Maitais will lose out the land, plus, their scope for jobs are very less.
Okay.
So that will naturally drive people a little crazy. So
Absolutely.
I think we're just asking for level playing field. That's it.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see what the Home Ministry can achieve. But one thing is clear, there can be zero tolerance for violence and terrorism in the name of ethnic or identity issues. That certainly, as a country, we cannot tolerate, because that license cannot be given to anybody. I do thank our guests for joining us.
Gosh.